I feel very called to become a member of the Catholic Church.
Love the Catholic Church. It's just the best place to be.
From the studios of EWTN, this is Open Line. In North America, call toll-free 1-800-585-9396. That's 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985. You can also send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
A tremendous Tuesday to each and every one of you, and a very Merry Christmas to all of you tuning in to EWTN's Open Line Tuesday. We are so happy that you've made a little time for us, taking some time out of your day to join us here on Open Line Tuesday. We talk the life issues on Tuesdays, anything life-related from womb to tomb, as they say. And usually our pro-life warrior Barbara McGuigan is in the house, but fear not, she's traveling today, but we have a more emphasis on the more than adequate replacement for her, and we'll introduce her in just one moment. I'm Jack Williams. The lovely and talented Elena Rodriguez produces the program, and your call screener is Mr. Matt Kubensky. If you'd like to be on the program, the phone number is 1-800-585-9396. That's toll-free anywhere in North America. 1-800-585-9396. If you're outside the United States and Canada, your number is 1-205-271-2985. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll put you straight to the front of the line at 1-205-271-2985. You can send us an email, openline@ewtn.com, or you can text your question for our celebrity fill-in host today by texting the letters EWTN to 55000. Wait for a response. Type your first name and your question. Message and data rates may apply. As I mentioned, Barbara's traveling back home from visiting some family in Northern California today, so it is our great privilege to have with us someone who will be a stranger to very few of our listeners here on EWTN Radio. The co-founder and president, I don't even know what your title is, Janet, but you're hooked up with Priests for Life and the Silent No More Awareness Campaign. And what do they actually call you?
Well, actually, I'm the executive director of Priests for Life, and I co-founded with Georgette Forney of Anglicans for Life the Silent No More Awareness Campaign, which we developed all the way back in 2002 and held our first events in January of 2003. And, of course, I am on the Defending Life series on EWTN, and I also co-host the Catholic View for Women, also with Teresa Tomeo and Astrid Bennett Gutierrez. So I guess, like you said, I'm no stranger to the EWTN
so what
audience.
What do you do in your free time?
Just to be able to be on EWTN, I feel is such a privilege. It really is.
What do you do in your free time?
Well, right now, let's see, here at Christmas.
The show's over now that you've given your list of accomplishments.
And I have a house full. A house full. Lots of kids, and it's amazingly warm in New York right now in New Jersey. It's almost 60 degrees. So while I'm on the air, the children have all gone. All my grandkids are at the park playing.
Now, has there been a lasagna involved in this weekend?
Believe it or not, I did not make lasagna.
Janet Morana.
I know.
You know, when we moved to Birmingham 8 years ago, we were kind of adopted by a large Italian family of several generations here that we spend most of our holidays with. And you'll see the traditional fare, especially at Thanksgiving, of turkey and stuffing and cranberries and everything else. And in the middle of the whole thing, there's always a lasagna.
Lasagna. Oh.
Always.
Well, my daughter's a little more health conscious. So I always say, Mom, let's kill the lasagna. No more lasagna. So we've kind of gone away from the lasagna. But we still had a great time, family being here. And there's more family coming in today, so later on today. So it's going to be a whole week of more entertaining and partying, because actually Christmas is not over. And that's what I like emphasizing, is that, in the secular world, a lot of people are already putting their Christmas trees on the curb, which saddens me. But as we know, we go straight through to the baptism of the Lord. And this is the Christmas season. And
Extra short this year.
Excuse me?
Extra short this year.
Yes. I was
because of the holiday following.
How that lands liturgically. I'm going, wait, I know I don't take my tree down to almost Martin Luther King's birthday, but now it's short, and it is because of everything falling on Sundays.
That's exactly right. Now, I know we want to talk a little bit about the preparations for the March for Life, but as you mentioned, you're the co-founder of the Silent No More Awareness Campaign, which is really a key, I think one of the most moving components every year of the March for Life, to hear the testimonies of these women, and I think even more moving in many instances to hear the testimony of these men who have been involved in abortion. Talk a little bit, have they been involved from the get-go? When did that come about? When did that come onto your radar? And how did you get started on having the men coming up and giving their testimonies?
Well, actually, the first man to give a testimony did not happen until the second, 2 years later, 2005. Was the first man, and actually his name at the time was Stephen Emberato. He's now Father Emberato.
That's right.
And he will be giving his testimony again. And so for your listeners know, he was complicit in an abortion many years ago, like when he was in his early 20s, and he did, confess the sin. He actually reconciled with his girlfriend, and he found out later on that it was twins, not just one baby, but she was carrying twins. Very sad. He later felt a call to priesthood, and he went through all the protocol, through Rome to get the dispensation, because being, complicit in abortion can be an impediment to ordination. But he went through all the channels with the rector of the seminary, Holy Apostles, and he was ordained a number of years ago. But he was actually a seminarian with permission from the rector when he gave that first testimony about being part of that abortion. And it was amazing to see, Matt, because so many of these women never hear from that guy ever again, who they had that abortion with. And why did they have that abortion? Well, because most of the time it was the boyfriend or the husband who was telling them they had to have that abortion, or was saying to them, oh, whatever you decide, or they weren't, really supportive for them. And to have Father Stephen, of course, get up and bare his soul in front of them, it was healing for all of them. I mean, you had to see that very first time. So many of the women were so touched because it was the first time a man stood there and apologized for his part in the abortion. And so since then, of course, we've had a lot of men come forward and continue to do so. We'll have more men giving testimony, of course, this January, both in San Francisco and in Washington, D.C.
Talk a little bit about the preparations for the commemoration of this anniversary this year.
Well, I'm anticipating, should I say, more pushback from the pro-aborts this year. There's been a little more pushback, actually, up at the Supreme Court. What we do now is I take some of the women up there around noon, while Georgia takes others down by the rally, and then they march. But some of us don't march because 2 years ago, we normally just march and get up there, and we have our platform all up there and everything, but the pro-aborts actually try to rip the signs down and be destructive. So we go up there now earlier to kind of protect the area. And last year, the pro-aborts had their own megaphones and sound system. They were already up there and entrenched. So we kind of had to protect our section there until the women came up to give testimony. So now with this election, that Trump won, and there's a pro-life, basically there's more of a pro-life Congress, too. I think they're going to be pretty upset. They're already threatening that they're going to, riot or, have demonstrations at the inauguration. So I think we can anticipate at the March for Life we're going to have a little bit more, both in San Francisco and D.C., but it will not stop us. The people who come to the March for Life and the Walk for Life are the most beautiful people around. As you see, they're all smiles, and everyone's there to stand up for the babies and to hopefully bring them into an abortion. So, and the police are wonderful. So I have been in all kinds of situations, Matt. Over these years. I've been at this for over 25 years doing this, and I've never felt any kind of danger. I've always felt that the police did. As a matter of fact, all the way back in 2005. Selling and more, we participated in the March for Women's Lives, where we just were there as a counter kind of demonstration with the pro-aborts had this big thing because it was right after Bush was inaugurated for the second time. They did this whole protest. And the women, we just came, about 30 of us, and they stood with their signs just as a prayerful in the corner. And we did have beautiful police protection as this march went by us. And we actually had one woman came out of the crowd, folded her sign down in half that was supported Planned Parenthood and said, I can't march with them any longer. Wow. And she came over and she actually told the women about her abortion, and of course they took her for healing, and it was a beautiful story. So what am I anticipating? Well, I think there'll be a little bit more pushback from the other side, but we're going to be there smiling and marching and giving witness anyway.
Just getting started on an open line Tuesday. Janet Morana from Priests for Life and the Silent No More Awareness Campaign is in the house, taking your questions and comments on the life issues. 1-800-585-9396. Open line Tuesday.
From EWTN News Nightly in Washington, D.C., I'm Wyatt Goolsby with an EWTN News Link. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and President Obama will visit the Pearl Harbor Memorial today. Abe is the first sitting prime minister from Japan to visit the site of the 1941 attack. Search crews find the flight recorder from a Russian plane that crashed into the Black Sea Sunday morning. All 92 people on board, including members of a world-famous military choir, died. Pope Francis asked for prayers for the victims and the emergency workers of the Russian plane crash. The request came yesterday during the prayer on the feast day of St. Stephen. The Holy Father also expressed his affection for all Christians being persecuted around the world. And a former North Korean diplomat says Pyongyang is racing to complete development of nuclear weapons by the end of next year. A South Korean news agency says North Korea isn't sparing any costs on its quest for nuclear weapons. I'm Wyatt Goolsby. Join us this evening for EWTN News Nightly.
Podcasts of Open Line are available within 24 hours of live broadcast. Go to EWTN.com and click on Multimedia.
Hello, this is Father Joseph Mary, chaplain here at EWTN. Did you know that the word Christmas comes from two words, Christ and Mass? So just as Mass offered on the feast of St. Michael was called the Michael Mass, so Mass offered on the Nativity was called the Christ Mass. In fact, at every Mass, we encounter anew the sacred humanity and divinity of Jesus. So, Merry Christmas.
Teresa Tomeo.
Every time I go to Mass and see my husband serving on the altar as a deacon, it hits me how, with God, all things are possible. I mean, there is no way that we should be still married, number one, based on all the problems we had. But number two, the fact that I'm in Catholic media and my husband is a deacon is simply a testimony to the power of God and the teachings of the Church that saved our marriage and, more importantly, our souls.
Catholic Connection with Teresa Tomeo. Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
This is Archbishop Charles J. Chaput, the Archbishop of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Hi, this is Tim Staples from Catholic Answers Live.
Hi, this is Teresa Tomeo, host of Catholic Connection. Have a holy and a blessed Christmas from all of us at the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
We've got a couple lines open for you at 1-800-585-9396. That's toll free anywhere in North America, 1-800-585-9396. If you're outside the United States and Canada, your number is 1-205-271-2985, and we'll put you straight to the front of the line at 1-205-271-2985. You can also text your question to our very special guest host, Janet Morana. Text the letters EWTN to 55000. Wait for a response. Text your first name and your question, message, and data rates may apply. Grab one of those open phone lines now, because once Miss Morana gets rolling, it will be hard to get in. Our leadoff hitter today is B in Dallas, Texas, listening to EWTN on Guadalupe Radio. B, thanks for calling, and Merry Christmas. You're on with Janet Morana.
Well, Merry Christmas to you, too, and it's great to be able to talk to Janet because I've heard so much about her. Janet.
Merry Christmas, B, and thanks for joining us today.
Oh, sure, and I wanted to tell you that it's really a surprise to get to speak to you because I am a pro-life counselor, and I do the Baby Do hotline here in Texas or in Dallas. And
oh, wonderful, wonderful.
I'm retired from doing it face-to-face. I'm 82, so I did have to finally give it up. But the question I have, and I should know this because I'm Catholic and have been for many, many, many years, and I've always wondered where the baby souls go when they die, if they've been aborted or if they're just small and die from sickness or something.
Exactly.
And not baptized.
Mm-hmm. Well, what we refer to is, as you know, St. John Paul II's beautiful encyclical, Evangelium Vitae. In paragraph 99, he clearly states that we entrust them to the Lord. We entrust them. So therefore, there was Jesus, right? We're entrusting them to the Lord, and that's the pure and simple answer of it. We use that a lot on post-abortion recovery programs, especially for the women, who've lost that child, for that abortion. They want to know, where's my baby? So we don't use the term, oh, they're definitely in heaven. We say that we entrusted them to the Lord, which means what? They're in heaven, really. But theologically speaking, St. John Paul II preferred to use the terms, we entrust them to the Lord. So I hope that answers your question, Bea. Does that help?
It helps a lot, yes. I have 2 grandchildren that have not been baptized, and for different reasons that I can't do anything about myself, but I worry about the little ones that are aborted, especially.
Yes.
And,
Well, and also, too, for moms who also lose a child through miscarriage, right?
Right.
Or a child is stillborn, things like that. Again, it all comes down to what St. John Paul II said, we entrust them to the Lord. Jesus' mercy, especially we just finished the year of mercy, as Pope Francis said, the doors are always open. Jesus' arms are always open. He wants all of us to be brought to him. And so, therefore, I think the paragraph 99 of Evangelium Vitae really says it all to all of us, that we trust, and and those babies are all entrusted to the Lord. Okay?
I grew up with hearing the term limbo, and I never understood, why baby didn't go right to heaven regardless.
Yeah, I grew up with that limbo stuff, too. That was the Baltimore Catechism.
Right, and that really worries me.
And I think entrusting them to the Lord is better than limbo, because limbo made it sound like they couldn't be with the Lord, but they were kind of stuck in this, spot. Whereas now, theologically they're saying, no, that's not what the Lord would want. These babies are innocent. They had nothing to do with why they died early or what happened to them. And so therefore we were entrusting them to Jesus, because after all, Jesus wants all of us to be with him, right?
That's true.
We're created in his image and likeness, and that was the whole reason why he put us on earth. He wanted more friends. And so we entrust them.
Well, I appreciate all that you and Father are doing, and I really thank you so much for the answer, and that helps me a great deal.
Well, I'm glad, and God bless you, Bea. And hey, let's move forward in 2017. I think we're going to have a great future now for the next few years for pro-life, and we've got to all get busy. Now that we got a more pro-life president in Congress, we've got to not just sit back, but we've got to encourage them, and we got to push and accomplish a lot for the babies, right?
I'm sure. Thank you so much,
and
Janet,
thank you for all of the years you did counseling.
Thank you.
That's a very blessed ministry, and thank you for your help.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
God bless you, Bea. Appreciate the phone call there from Dallas. That frees up a line for you at 1-800-585-9396, toll-free anywhere in North America. And Janet, this is a great topic to kind of talk about. I know you at the Silent No More Awareness Campaign work very closely with Rachel's Vineyard.
Yeah.
And you talk about the recovery of post-abortive women. And that's one element of it, and it's, I'm sure, an element that is addressed at these Rachel's Vineyard retreat. Talk a little bit about the importance of addressing the pain that goes along with an abortion.
Well, yeah, because what happens is, well, first of all, the whole procedure is horrific, as we know. And then, there's no closure. They don't get to see their baby. Very often they're discarded as waste, medical waste. And we also know from with the baby body part scandal that David Daleiden exposed, how the baby parts were sold and all that. That traumatized a lot of women. We had to deal with that a lot, 2 summers ago when that whole broke. And because they wonder what happened to my baby. And so at the Rachel's Vineyard retreat, they get an opportunity to reconnect in a way with that child. So they write letters to their baby. They're invited to name the child. And so many of them, they get a sense of it was a boy or a girl. The Lord really, it's amazing what happens on those weekends. I mean, I've been part of many of those weekends, helping out on those retreat weekends. And the transformation, man, is amazing. They come in Friday night, and you can see, sad. They don't even want to make eye contact with a lot of people. And as they go through the process of retelling the details of that abortion that day, but then connecting with that child, naming the child, writing a letter to the child, asking a letter of forgiveness to the baby, and then on Sunday they do a Mass of the Resurrection. And so it's almost like having a spiritual wake and funeral that they didn't have before, and it's a very, very healing time. And of course, that paragraph 99 of entrusting the babies to the Lord is also talked about on those retreat weekends, which is very, very important.
What would you say to women who are just afraid to go down the road of a retreat with other people like this?
Well, I think the problem, first of all, is so many women live in this secret sin. Okay, they think, first of all, abortion is an unforgivable sin, and then many of them have had problems in their lives for many years, with drugs or alcohol or relationship to relationship. And when they finally hit bottom is when they're reaching out for help. And so on the weekend, I think they're afraid as they first enter in, but once they get there, they begin to connect. And I think being with people who feel like you do and kind of affirm that we understand is so important. It's so important.
1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number. We're waiting for your phone calls at 1-800-585-9396. We have an anonymous question from a YouTube viewer.
Okay.
She says, I'm working with a lady who is an ICU registered nurse. She just had a patient who became brain dead, and the hospital informed her that they had an agreement with the family to donate organs. However, she didn't know what the Catholic position should be and her role in the procedure. She's worried about participating in an unethical coercion. How should I guide her?
Well, first of all, you get a second opinion. You just don't go by the one opinion. And also, too, you can ask a priest that you know to come and first of all give the last rites to this person and ask for advice from a priest too. These kind of, when they say brain dead, Matt, that's a very difficult term, and I think you have to really examine fully what is happening, before the person is just rushed off for organ donation. Now, organ donation is a very good thing, but we also want to make sure that we're not, I'm trying to say, jumping to it too quickly.
Right.
So it really has to have a lot of degree of caution. I actually had personal experience with this. When my mother-in-law had fallen, she had a bleed in her brain, and she was very critically ill in the hospital for about 2 weeks' time. And then suddenly she started to improve. But then in the course of that improvement, she had another bleed happen and a massive stroke. And they, again, came to us and said, well, she's brain dead, and they wanted to take her off life support. Well, we said no. We want to make sure that that's the right decision. So we called in a second neurologist to check. I called the priest in. We went through this whole motion because they were coming with this clipboard to sign to take her off life support. It just seemed like just every hour or so they were coming back with a clipboard. And finally, I went out to the nurse's station. I said, listen, nothing is going to be done until we have satisfied ourselves to make sure this is the right decision. So what I would suggest in all these cases, Matt, is press the pause button and get other opinions and get other advice because too often in these hospitals they're rushing in with that clipboard to get you to sign. So I would say caution is the best thing and get a second opinion.
1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number. Couple lines open for you at 1-800-585-9396. If you're outside the United States and Canada, we'd love to hear what's going on in your part of the world. Give us a call at 1-205-271-2985, and we'll put you straight to the front of the line at 1-205-271-2985. You can send us an email, openline@EWTN.com, or you can text your question for Janet. Text the letters EWTN to 55000. Wait for a response. Text your first name and your question, and we will get that to Janet as quickly as we can. Mike is in Centennial, Colorado, listening on Denver Catholic Radio. Mike, what's your question real quick, and then we'll get Janet's response here in just a minute.
Real quick, what would you guys say to all the Catholics that voted for a pro-abortion candidate?
Mike, that is an outstanding question. Merry Christmas to you. Hold on the line. Janet has got plenty to say about that, I am sure, and we've still got plenty of time for all of your phone calls at 1-800-585-9396. That's toll-free anywhere in the United States and Canada, 1-800-585-9396. Or, again, if you're outside the United States and Canada, 1-205-271-2985. Janet Morana from Priests for Life and the Silent No More Awareness Campaign sitting in for Barbara McGuigan today here on EWTN's Open Line Tuesday. Couple lines open for you. Grab one of those right now.
The gift that God presents to humanity that we celebrate every Christmas is the gift of himself. We celebrate Christmas year after year by giving stuff to each other. But my prayer for you and for myself this Christmas is that we don't get so caught up in the busyness of the holiday that we forget to slow down and give ourselves. Pause from cooking that Christmas meal and tell your loved ones how much they mean to you. Put aside your work and spend an hour playing that board game with your son. No doubt he'll be happy to unwrap that gift under the tree, but your undivided attention will be the far greater gift. And take time to give yourself to God. Try reading about the birth of Jesus from Luke chapter 2 with your loved ones before you rip into those presents together. Come, let us adore him, but let's follow his example too. Don't just share presents and food this Christmas. Share the gift of yourself. This is Chris Stefanik from reallifecatholic.com.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
So we're not really allowed almost to put something up that says, I am celebrating the birthday of the Messiah. You see, because it's something about church and state and all that monkey business. Why are we ashamed or afraid to say Christmas? Whose birthday is it? The winter? No. Santa Claus? No, that's St. Nicholas, and you're already gone. If you're in Italy, you celebrate the Magi, which is January 13. That's when they give their gifts. Why? Because Christmas is the Father's gift to us. And we never give Jesus a gift. I don't know if we know anymore whose birthday it is. See, what we're supposed to celebrate is the birth of Jesus, Son of God.
For more information on Mother Angelica, visit Religious Catalog at EWTNRC.com.
Hello, this is Bishop Robert Baker from the Diocese of Birmingham.
This is Bishop William Medley of the Diocese of Owensboro.
This is Johnette Benkovic, host of Women of Grace. Have a holy and blessed Christmas from all of us at the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
Be sure to keep it right here when we're done at 4 Eastern, 2 hours of Cresta in the afternoon, and this is a delightful time to check out Al Cresta because they count down the top interviews of 2016, and you might even hear an interview with Janet Morana, maybe, just maybe. We're talking to Mike in Centennial, Colorado here on EWTN's Open Line Tuesday, and Janet, Mike wants to know what you would say to the 45% of Catholics who vote against life.
Well, usually people that will say that, abortion is not my key issue, the life issue. That's not the only issue. I'm worried about jobs. I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that. First of all, that they have to realize that the abortion issue is a non-negotiable as far as our Catholic faith is concerned. You can't be in favor of abortion and be a faithful Catholic. That's point one. Point two is, by voting for someone who's pro-abortion, well, you're putting someone into power that's going to do everything in their power to continue to make abortion legal and to allow more abortions to happen. But the other point is, a baby has to be born first before we can worry about, what's your health care plan? What's your housing plan? What's the education plan? So if you understand what I'm saying is, basically, life is foundational, and then the other issues that probably that person or those people are concerned about can be handled, but they've got to get born first. And the bishops of the United States have a beautiful document called Living the Gospel Life that they issued back in 1998. And one of the clearest examples they gave regarding this is that abortion and euthanasia are the foundation, like when you're building a house, that good, solid foundation. And then all the other issues that I just mentioned, like poverty, housing, education, and so on, those things would be the walls or the cross beams or the windows or the chimney or the roof. But you got to have a strong foundation or the house will crumble. And so I always refer back to that. I think that's a beautiful example. And we have to keep educating our friends who, unfortunately, don't get it. And the best way to do that is in very calm and meaningful conversations. And I think also, too, the focus, I think in the last presidential debate, when the subject finally came up, I was so delighted that it finally came up, And Hillary Clinton showed how extreme she was on abortion, that she was in favor of it through all 9 months. She was very clear about it. And then Donald Trump, of course, said, "You mean, pulling a baby, arms and legs apart? This is what she's talking about." It made it very clear that he was against abortion. So we do have to keep educating our brothers and sisters who say they're Catholic but continue to vote against life and vote for candidates who are pro-abortion. So I hope that helps, Mike. But stay calm, Mike, when you talk to them. You have to stay calm, and you be passionate about the issue like I am, but you have to have a good, calm, factual discussion with them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. We appreciate the phone call. 1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number. Janet, talk a little bit about working outside of the abortion facilities, especially for folks who maybe have thought about it but thought that perhaps it might be a little more than they could handle.
What do you mean? You mean praying outside the abortion or
yes,
counseling,
exactly.
sidewalk counseling?
Either or.
Either or.
Both
yeah.
and.
Well, first of all, we just had a successful, I would say, 40 Days for Life campaign, as usual, this past fall. And the Silent No More Winners campaign participated in that greatly. As you know, they traveled to all 50 states, and we had our regional coordinators at those rallies giving their testimonies. First of all, praying outside an abortion mill is always a good thing. It affects several things. First of all, a woman going into that clinic, it shows that there's someone standing there in the gap for her and praying, and also praying for that baby whose life is about to be destroyed. But also, too, it's for the workers inside. Father Pavone and I work with the workers who come out of the abortion industry and want to have healing. And so many of them say that when someone was praying outside that abortion clinic, for them inside, it was a very bad day. It was like something stirred within their spirit to make them feel uncomfortable. So praying outside that clinic is very, very important. But for the sidewalk counselors, who are out there, who've been trained to kind of give that last reach out and help, so many babies have been saved by those sidewalk counselors being out there. So anyone who's interested, you can contact us and we can put you in touch with the people who do the training. They could just send an email to mail@priestforlife.org, and we'll give them all that information. But countless babies have been saved over the decades by sidewalk counselors. So it's a great thing if you can do it. But also, too, do not go out to the abortion clinic by yourself. Always pray with a friend. So go. It's very biblical, Matt. Go 2 by 2 in twos.
Something along those lines. We've got an email from Marissa, and she says, please, She's basically asking about cohabitation. She said her daughter is living with her boyfriend. She's stressed to her that it's wrong. It's a mortal sin. Is there anything else I can say to try to convince her? And it sounds like Marissa might be being a little too direct, maybe.
Well, yeah. I mean, if she's already living with her boyfriend, that's already happening. She might want to point out some statistics that. I mean, I'm assuming that usually when they're living with their boyfriend, they're hoping that eventually they're going to walk down the aisle and eventually marry them in a couple of years. That seems to be the scenario these days. More couples live together and then get married. I would point out that statistically so far, that divorce rates are higher among couples who cohabitate before marriage than those who don't.
Pretty dramatically, are they not?
Yes, they are. So that might be one thing that, it's not going to help your relationship. But then, if you look at psychiatrists like Dr. Philip Ney, a Canadian psychiatrist, has really studied these relationships and also the abortion issue. And he talks about that when you have all these sexual partners, that it also can affect your choice in a final who would be like your spouse, because it's not what God intended us to do, and almost to do with chemically within your hormones and everything in your system. It really can affect you negatively. Now, she might, if she's in love with this gentleman right now, she's not going to hear what her mother's saying to her clearly, but just telling her that, it doesn't bode well for couples who live together, that more end up separating and divorced than stick together. That might help a little bit. And then pray. Pray. I always say pray, because that really does. I know people find it hard. Sometimes we don't get our prayers answered right away. It takes years. And I always just look at St. Monica and St. Augustine as an example.
1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number, 1-800-585-9396. And Janet, the Holocaust of abortion in our country is unprecedented in human history, and it's something that nothing else really even holds a candle to as far as tragedies go. But I would imagine that at Priests for Life, you all are probably having to deal with end-of-life issues on a larger scale than you ever have before.
Well, that's true because, unfortunately, the assisted suicide is starting to grow in our country. As you know, there's several states that have already passed those kind of laws. And all you have to do really is look to Europe, to Belgium, the Netherlands, and, of course, up in Canada, and you see how horrible the end-of-life issues are and these people who have embraced assisted suicide. Because, and when you think about it, when someone has a terminal illness, very often they're depressed. And so what you're doing is you're taking a very vulnerable person and recommending to them we can help you along and end your life quicker. It's a very, very sad thing. And I know our good friend Bobby Schindler of Terry's Life and Hope Network, he's doing a great job in dealing with this issue.
1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number. Podcasting is a form of audio broadcasting on the Internet. It's an easy way to automatically receive your favorite EWTN programs on your mobile device. Simply visit EWTN.com/podcast. That's EWTN.com/podcast to start podcasting today. We've got an email from Mark. He says, my daughter is 13 years old. Goodness gracious, diagnosed with severe depression and PTSD. A Catholic psychologist and a non-Catholic psychiatrist agreed to prescribe the Depo shot to treat these. I'm concerned how this will adversely impact her, and if you know any science that might offer an alternative. I believe that no good can ever come from any evil, and I classify all contraceptive drugs as evil. All help you can provide would be most greatly appreciated, and that's from Mark.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't recommend the Depo shot nor any of the artificial birth control things for her because of the complications they have with them. First of all, that they're group 1 carcinogens. They're cancer-causing agents, and so that I would never recommend that as a means. I mean, I think, first of all, going to a more holistic approach very often is better. First of all, starting with a good OBGYN would be someone who's trained in naprotechnology, who recommend all very natural methods of dealing with things. As far as the depression, I have never heard of someone giving Depo-Provera for depression. I'm sorry, but I have never, ever heard of that before. So I would just say, and just because a doctor is Catholic doesn't mean that they're bringing their Catholic faith into their practice. So I would say it's time to get a second opinion.
Sometimes I think that they'll probably go out of their way to not bring their Catholic bias into a practice in some situations.
That's right. But in this case, I've never heard of something like that, and I would definitely get another opinion.
How much of a role do you think contraception, especially in younger girls and women, has played in the crisis that we find ourselves in today?
Oh, I think it's huge. First of all, breast cancer, if you just want to look at that, the age at which women are getting breast cancer is younger and younger. When you think about it, medical insurance companies, they do not pay for mammograms, reimburse for mammograms, usually to women are 40 or older. And we're finding more and more breast cancer in women in their late 20s and 30s. And why? Because of the link to abortion and also to contraception pills that they've been taking for so many years. So it's a huge problem, huge.
1-800-585-9396. Still plenty of time for your phone calls for Janet Morana. Michael's in Spokane, Washington, listening on Sacred Heart Radio. Merry Christmas, Michael. You're on with Janet Morana.
Thank you, Janet, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year and Merry Christmas.
Yeah, because of, this better than I, but because of ultrasound medical testing, the unborn heartbeat can be detected 2 to 3 weeks after conception. Hands and feet are visible 3 to 4 weeks after conception. But how do these abortion buildings pass health inspections, whereas, veterinarian buildings often have more requirements than these abortion places?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a favorite topic of mine, and I wrote about it in my book, Recall Abortion. It's true that there are more books, like let's say over here in New York State, which is, New York and California are the abortion capitals, as we know, of our country. Those are the two states that have the most abortions. And yet, in New York State, there are more laws on the books protecting, like my dogs in the veterinary clinic that they go to, than women going into an abortion clinic. And here's an example. Do you realize that only the veterinarian, now think about this, when you go to get your dog his checkup and he has to get his shots, only if you notice, the assistant can't give those shots, only the doctor gives the actual injections to the animals. So because those are laws that are in place to keep the standards in veterinary clinics at a certain level. And yet abortion clinics, guess how many regulations there are in the book? 0. Absolutely none. And every time that lawmakers or people try to get laws enacted, the pro-aborts like Planned Parenthood and all the abortion mills, they fight against them vehemently, and they say, "Oh, it's going to stop access to clinics." Now, if you remember, just recently we lost that case to the Supreme Court in Texas. And they were claiming it was about access. It was really about trying to raise the standards of the abortion clinics in Texas by saying that certain things had to be in place, like the hallways had to be wide enough to get a gurney in. They had to have certain standard of care equipment in the abortion clinic, and that the doctor had to have admitting privileges in the nearby hospital. Now, those all sound like good, wonderful things. The pro-aborts fought this left and right, saying it was taking away access to abortion, and women were not going to be able to have abortion. And of course, the Supreme Court agreed with them and struck down that Texas law. So it's an uphill battle, Michael, and we have to keep fighting for it. And the women from the Silent No More Awareness campaign, I mean, their testimonies alone, you can just read them at silentnomore.com, and you see the horrific conditions that were inside these abortion clinics. So we have to keep exposing what goes on in these clinics, expose the truth.
God bless you, Michael. We appreciate the phone call. Merry Christmas to you. 1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number. Janet, our good friend Jim Sedlak speaks so eloquently about the notion that Planned Parenthood and other abortion facilities are health care facilities. And he speaks so brilliantly on the fact that people go to a health care provider when their body is not functioning properly in order to have it restored to normal function. Exactly the opposite is happening at many of these women's health clinics, is it not?
Well, of course, because a woman is pregnant, that's doing something her body is supposed to be doing. What an abortion does, it interrupts that process. And again, if you just think about, and I wrote about this in my book, Recall Abortion, suppose you have to go, Matt, for ambulatory surgery, right? Where you go in and out same day, right? Let's say you have to have a torn meniscus of your knee. You fell. Well, what happens? You go to the specialist. He tells you about the surgery. He schedules your surgery about a week before. You have to go to the hospital, don't you? You have to get pre-admission testing, don't you? You have to get blood tests. You have to get a urine analysis. You have to get a chest X-ray. You meet with the anesthesiologist. All this stuff is in place, right? And, of course, the day of the procedure, you meet with everyone again. You go through the procedure. When it's over, the doctor meets you in recovery and explains how everything went. You get usually a prescription for pain meds and antibiotics and a follow-up appointment, right? All sounds great. Does any of that happen in an abortion? Absolutely not. They come in, the women, some basic information is taken, and they're asked to pay either by insurance, cash, or credit card, or I guess if they have the welfare, then they get Medicaid. That's it. They're brought into a room, they're put on a gown, and onto the gurney they go, and the first time they meet that doctor is when they're on the table for their procedure about to begin. And then they're taken into another room, an hour later, juice and cookies, and out the door they go. How is this good medicine? And if they have a complication after that abortion, they're told to go to the emergency room. They never see that doctor again unless they come back for another abortion. So it's terrible. It really is terrible.
What kind of a difference do you think information would make in most of these situations? Because, as you said, these women are given virtually no information.
Well, I think information is powerful. I think in states like in Texas and certain ones have passed these laws, Women's Right to Know, where they have a waiting period, 24-hour waiting period, where they have to show them the fetal development. They're allowed to be given this information. It's enough to make women say, oh, I never realized that, or I didn't think of that. And then many of them don't go through with that abortion. We know from the Women of Silent No More that so many of them were lied to. They were told it was just a blob of tissue with cells and all this and that. And even when they do an ultrasound, especially in the first trimester, first of all, the abortion clinic will not let them see the screen. But I can tell you a case. It was one of the girls that worked at Priest for Life. Her niece, unbeknownst to her, went to an abortion clinic to have an abortion. And they actually, in this case, they showed her the ultrasound, and they showed her, see, there's nothing in the womb. It's empty, just some tissue that we'll take out tomorrow. Her niece, thank God, called her aunt, and we got her to a pregnancy center where she had another ultrasound, and guess what? There was a baby there with a beating heart. And what did they do? Because it was in the first trimester, there's a lot of space. You've seen those early first trimester ultrasound
That's
pictures,
right?
The baby's over in one spot. So they very carefully, cleverly kept the wand over in the one section to show her, see, there's nothing here, when in fact there was the baby just inches away. And so thank God that baby was saved. But these is the kind of lies that keep happening to these women.
1-800-585-9396, toll-free anywhere in North America. We'd love to hear from you at 1-800-585-9396. Talk about your book a little bit, Jana, and tell folks also where they can get a hold of it.
Well, sure. They can just go to recallabortion.com or priestforlife.org. And the book is now available in paperback, and I'd love to send you a personal autographed copy. And what I do is, in the book, recall abortion has a double meaning. Women who've had abortions, even if they've gone through healing, they always recall that procedure. But also, too, I make a case throughout the book why we should demand a government recall of abortion, meaning the procedure. Just like products that give you false things, like people have recalled cars and tires and things like that. Well, abortion should be in that category. And I take on all the hard cases, rape, incest, life of the mother, and even fetal anomaly, and I go into even IVF and selective reduction. So it's a good tool, and if you'd like a copy, I'd love to send it to you. And for anyone who's listening right now, if you contact Priest for Life, I will send you a free copy if you told me you were listening to EWTN just now. So priestforlife.org/store, or call our toll-free number 888-735-3448, and let me send you a complimentary copy for tuning into EWTN.
Father Terence Morvallo is watching in the Ivory Coast. He said he's a Catholic priest, and he follows this pro-life broadcast. Thanks. It's such good education watching on YouTube. Thank you, Father Terence. We appreciate that. And really, the education of even good-intentioned people is vitally important, is it not?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even myself, Matt, when I first got into this issue many years ago, over 25, I didn't know much about abortion. And I found that the more I find out, it's like I become even more passionate. And so we always have to, I'm always learning something new. I'm always reading new books about what's going on. Matter of fact, one of the newest books I have is Joe Scheidler's new book, put out by St. Benedict's Press, which I'm looking forward to reading in the new year. So I always keep educated. And, of course, I'm looking forward so much, Matt, to the March for Life, as you know, where not just Silent No More, but, so much happens that day. It starts, by the way, early in the morning. Father Pavone and the National Pro-Life Religious Council hold an indoor, and I want everyone to hear this, indoor, where it's warm, prayer service at Constitution Hall. It's absolutely free. They're almost comfortable seats, like theater kind of seats, and Pam Tebow is going to be giving the award this year. The Pro-Life Award. And it's a beautiful service, pastors from all different denominations praying, and Tony Melendez is going to be singing once again. It's a great way to start the morning out before heading over to the rally, and it's close by where the rally site is. So if you'd like to go to Constitution Hall, it starts with Mass at 7:30, and the prayer service starts promptly at 8:30. You'll be out by 10:30 and have plenty of time to walk over to the rally. So it's a great way to start the March for Life. And, of course, when you get to the Supreme Court, come off the street and over onto the sidewalk, you'll hear the men and women of Silent No More giving their testimonies.
Don is in Newark, Ohio, listening on St. Gabriel Radio. Don, Merry Christmas. You're on with Janet Morana.
Yes. Hello, Janet. And,
hello.
I have a comment, and can you comment on it? I believe, isn't it an issue that if we could provide at our, like Heartbeats, which we have here in Newark, Ohio, if we could provide the other services that Planned Parenthood claims to provide, vaccinations, doctor care, that type, it would remove one of their claims to providing the service.
Well, we're just saying, like, at the pregnancy centers, that if they provided vaccinations and other things?
Yes, the things that Planned Parenthood claims that they supply other than abortions that are our clinics
first of
don't.
all, let's talk about mammograms, okay, women's services that they claim to provide. They don't provide mammographies. There is not one Planned Parenthood in our nation that has the equipment to do a mammography. What they do is they give you a referral to go someplace else for the mammogram.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, the point is they don't provide those services. I was at one time at a Planned Parenthood in Texas, and yeah, they were giving out vaccinations. But I'll tell you right now, you don't have to go to a Planned Parenthood to get your child vaccinated. You can go to any health clinic in any state where they have free health clinics that give the children's vaccinations. So I don't think that is the way to go. I think what we have to do is expose the abortion clinics for what they're doing, including Planned Parenthood, how the conditions are terrible, and I think defunding Planned Parenthood, the amount of money they're getting from our federal government, as you know, it's over $1 million a day. I think if we defund them, that's going to be the best thing that we can do to help close those clinics.
John is in Cincinnati, Ohio, listening on Sacred Heart Radio. John, we've got about a minute left with Janet Morana. What's your question today?
Yeah, hi. Am I on the air?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, hey, a minute ago you were talking about assisted suicide and how depressed people, they tend to take advantage of depressed people. And you suggested that doctors recommend assisted suicide. Doctors do not recommend assisted suicide. If the patient asks for it, they provide counseling, and if they pass those parameters, then they will assist in the suicide. But they never recommend it. So you're kind of twisting the truth there.
Thanks, John. We appreciate the phone call, and we are just about flat out of time. Janet, give those websites one more time for our listeners.
Well, sure. Just go to priestforlife.org for all the information you need about the multitude of our ministries, and, of course, silentnomore.com. And if you're looking for a healing program, abortionforgiveness.com. Just pop in your zip code, and you'll see where is the nearest Rachel's Vineyard or other healing ministries in your area. And I want to wish everyone a continued Merry Christmas and a blessed New Year, 2017. Blessings for the new year.
On behalf of our host, Janet Morana, our producer, Elena Rodriguez, call screener, Matt Kubensky, I'm Jack Williams. Thanks so much for taking a little time out of your day. Back at it tomorrow. Until we get together then, God bless.